charge of the media that when you put a microphone anywhere, an additional one, please ask us. The concern is that we can't have you overhearing conversations between counsel and defendant. So I don't mind the microphones. You can place them near me, wherever, but let's just ensure that defendant's constitutionally protected right to counsel is maintained. All right? I think everything else is going well with the media and with the public, so thank you all very much for your cooperation. We, again, are here today for continued sentencing on docket 17-526 FC, People of the State of Michigan versus Lawrence Gerard Nassar. Counsel, your appearances for the record, in addition to identifying anyone else seated at counsel's table on behalf of the people.
Good morning, Your Honor. Angela Povolitis, P58430, on behalf of the people, and I'm with the Michigan Department of Attorney General. I will let the other attorneys introduce themselves, but for the record, we have Andrea Lightly, the Director of Communications for the Michigan Department of Attorney General, and seated to her right is Detective Lieutenant Andrea Munford of the Michigan State Police Department.
Thank you. Counsel.
Good morning, Your Honor. Rodney Liddell on behalf of the people with the Attorney General's Office, P68287.
Thank you.
Good morning, Your Honor. Chris Allen, Assistant Attorney General, P75329.
Thank you. On behalf of defendant.
Good morning, Your Honor. Matt Newberg on behalf of Larry Nassar.
And good morning, Your Honor. I'm Shannon Smith on behalf of Larry Nassar, who sits to my left.
Thank you. You may be seated. All right. This morning we had a delay because we were again reviewing, as we did last night, a letter that was sent by defendant. And he states he doesn't sure who to send. I'm not sure who to send this to. I'm very concerned about my ability to be able to face witnesses this next 4 days mentally. Sir, in regard to your letter, which is six pages long, single spaced, printed, I need to ask you a few questions. If you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury? Thank you. I need you to speak up. Counsel, that microphone, I know you're hiding it there. Can you return it, please?
Sure.
All right, thank you. Let me first ask you how you're feeling today. Better today? Okay. Is that microphone on? I'm barely hearing him. Can you turn it on?
Do I just push this?
Yeah.
It's easy to do.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Hamlin.
The green light is on.
No, I need it.
Okay.
Technology has changed a bit.
Got it, thanks. Okay.
All right. So, sir, you're feeling better today?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you had an opportunity to meet with Community Mental Health. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And did they make any recommendation for you that I need to be aware of? I don't want you to divulge any medical secrets. What I want to know is, did they make any recommendation for you so we can make an accommodation here today?
There's no change from
Okay.
Your Honor, if I may, I spoke with my client this morning. It's my understanding that Community Mental Health is going to be reaching out to the court should there be any concerns moving forward.
Thank you. I did speak with the jail, and we do have Community Mental Health on standby, and your ability should be at the end of every day to meet with them. So if you have the need, or if you need them to come over on our lunch hour, I just need you to let me know they are on alert. Do you understand?
Yes, thank you.
Sir, there's a few sentences in here that concern me. I may address more at sentencing, but right now, your letter states, now Aquilina is having a 4-day sentencing media circus. Let me address that. I don't think there's any surprise because media has followed you in the federal system at every stage here, and they will likely be there with Judge Cunningham, and that's no surprise, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay. So, I didn't ask any media to be here. In fact, oftentimes, even for the most minor crime, I advise defendants that media may be in the courtroom. I never know when they're going to show up in my courtroom. Clearly, I was advised they were going to be here for you, your attorneys. The people and I worked out a system because this is a public courtroom, and I believe in open courts, and that is our Constitution. That they were going to be here. It should come to no surprise. I do not know why you are complaining now. You also go on to say that all the civil suit cases that the Attorney General are not strong enough for criminal prosecution. They picked the top ones for the state cases. Anyways, Aquilina is allowing them all to talk. It goes on to say, there are a couple of other lines, she wants me to sit in the witness box next to her for all 4 days, so the media cameras will be directed toward her. I don't need any cameras. You certainly are free not to take my picture. I don't have a dog in this fight, sir. I didn't orchestrate this, you did, by your actions and by your plea of guilty. I specifically want you to know, I didn't know anything about Larry Nassar. While my family is into sports, while they're watching Olympics, I am working. I teach at 2 classes. I do a lot of things at 2 law schools. I teach a number of classes. I have 5 children. I do a lot of things, so I rarely watch sports. My family's into it. I don't know who Dr. Nassar is. And I'm sorry, I didn't watch all of these beautiful Olympians. I don't have that kind of time or lifestyle. I didn't know who you were, and the articles that were printed, I stayed away from. When people talked to me about you, I said, this may end up in front of me, and ultimately it did. I didn't know anything about this case, because there's that presumption of innocence. I gave you the benefit of the doubt when your lawyers told me, the defense, that this was a medical procedure. I said, great, and I want you to know my father's a doctor. I've worked in his office. Medical procedures are changing all the time. How did I know? Just like, how did these girls know? I trusted that you had that strong defense, and we set this for trial. Our county sent out hundreds of requests for jurors. I added 2 chairs, so we would have 16 jurors with 4 alternates. I've done everything I can to make sure that you had a fair and impartial trial and to stay free of anything I knew about you, because I didn't know you. I don't know anything about your family. I don't need the media to be focused on me. They're clearly focused on you and your acts, and they are bad acts that you pled to. So now, in terms of fair and impartial, how can I be fair and impartial now, completely a blank slate, when I have a pre-sentence investigation report, I have your plea, I have all of these beautiful victims who've come forward. All of this has to be considered at sentencing. I haven't made up my mind. I have ideas. I'll have more to say later, but I want to specifically respond to this and to remind you, and your attorneys know this, and I'm sure they talked about this with you when they came to me and said, we have a plea. I about fell over. I had everything in place. We had trial starting, and the letters had gone to the jurors. And I said, okay, tell me. And their question to me is, will you accept this? I didn't have a problem accepting it as long as the victims could speak, because this is a global resolution and we didn't need any more trials, any more waste of money on this case and you. I don't mind spending money on the victims, but not on this, on you. This was a global resolution. I didn't want even one victim to lose their voice, which is why we are here for 4 days. It could be 5 or 6. Victims keep coming forward wanting to speak when they hear their sister. Victims. And I want to remind you on page 3 of the plea agreement, paragraph 4. I'm going to read it to you so you clearly understand this isn't about me at all. It's about you, the agreement, and mostly the victims, so they can start healing. Paragraph 4. Victim impact statements. The defendant agrees to allow all victims or their parent/representative to give victim impact statements at defendant's sentencing hearing. Included shall be the 125 victims who have reported their assaults to Michigan State University Police Department and the other acts victims who have been identified on the people's list. It says included, not limited to. There's a Crime Victims' Rights Act. It allows for the healing of victims and for them to come forward. Now, you may find it harsh that you are here listening, but nothing is as harsh as what your victims endured for thousands of hours at your hands. Collectively, you spent thousands of hours perpetrating criminal sexual conduct on minors, spending 4 or 5 days listening to them is significantly minor, considering the hours of pleasure you had at their expense and ruining their lives. None of this should come as a surprise to you. Judge Aquilina is seeking media attention over court protocol. Really? This is the people of the state of Michigan versus Larry Nassar, not Judge Aquilina. I'm doing my job. I try to do it well, unlike what you did. Because of my heart, I passed out twice the morning of federal sentencing. I'm sorry about that, sir. I wish you well. I don't know anything about that. Again, I didn't pay attention to what happened there because this is separate. Now, this is entertaining to me, I have to say. Aquilina said if I pass out, she'll have the EMTs revive me and then prop me up in the witness box. I suspect you've watched too much television. I have had persons, jurors have heart attacks, defendants go into seizures, all sorts of medical things. You can have your attorneys ask 911 for all the times I have called EMTs, stopped the trial and waited until a juror or a defendant or whomever was associated with the case was well. I would never do that to a human being, regardless of what they did. So I don't know if it's your frustration at night or what's going on here, but I have to say, this isn't worth the paper it's written on. There's no truth in here. It's delusional. You need to talk about these issues with a therapist, and that is not me. Contrary to CNN's headline, I'm not a therapist. And I certainly, if I was, would not be your therapist. I asked your counsel to speak with you today. Oh, one more thing. There's also something in here about your attorneys. Just give me a moment to find that out. Although I think you forgot what you learned in medical school, I haven't forgotten what I have learned in law school and the Constitution that I uphold every day. This goes on to say, she wants me to sit in the witness box next to her for all 4 days. Okay? That portion is your constitutional protected right, first of all, to sit next to your counsel. There's a Sixth Amendment right to counsel. That's why your counsel's here. So, at any second, you can talk to your counsel, and that's exactly what you have been doing. They're allowing you to take notes. You're sitting here in the witness box, not for my entertainment, quite honestly, so that your victims can face you in the eye without turning back constantly, because then we would lose part of their statements because our court reporter needs to hear everything. She can't do that when people are twisting awkwardly back at you. And I also, at the podium, I could not have you, especially with a heart condition, standing for 4 days. That would be cruel and unusual punishment. I can't stand for 4 days, and I'm Army. I'm trained. I might be able to stand for a day and a half, but I'll pass out at some point. I don't want that to happen to you. That's why you're here, for your comfort and for the victims who have that right to confront you. Now, there are other highlights I may address at sentencing or during this. I think we've wasted enough time this morning. I think you've gone over this with your attorneys this morning. Is that correct? The issues?
They talked to me.
Okay. I don't want to violate attorney-client confidentiality, but you did have an opportunity to speak with your clients, correct? And you're happy with your clients, is that, or I'm sorry, you're happy with your attorney, is that correct? And you wish to proceed with your plea and the sentencing, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is there anything that we can change here?
When I wrote that, it was before I came. Okay, it was a stress, it says at the end, it's like a cathartic. You know what I mean? It was just it was meant for a cry for community mental health. Okay, so it was meant for a kite for community mental health.
All right. Sir, all you have to do, you don't have to kite for community mental health. Maybe no one told you, and I'm sorry about that. The jail has community mental health there every day, or almost every day. all you need to say is, I need help. And you will receive it. Taxpayer dollars will be spent on your mental health. That's all you need to say. This letter doesn't say specifically, I'm having a breakdown, I need CMH. Although reading between the lines, that's exactly what I gave you last night after I consulted in the evening with your counsel. One of the reasons we broke early was exactly that, so the CMH didn't leave before you arrived back. And I have the sheriff's, the jail's cooperation with any time you need CMH, even if they need to come over here in the lunch hour, you will have access to them. All you need to do is say that. But writing this mumbo jumbo, it doesn't help you, sir. Counsel, do you wish to inquire of your client about anything?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
May we proceed?
Please, thank you.
On behalf of this letter, do the people have anything to say?
I do not. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, and the record should reflect that all counsel have been provided with a copy immediately upon our receipt of it. Next.
Your Honor, just to update the court, we have a few new developments in the last few hours, but we had one young woman who wished to speak yesterday and who changed her mind, so that brought us to 100. And I had 5 additional women contact me asking to speak who had previously not wished to. So we are trying to fit them in for the sentencing hearing. So I believe our current number is at 105.
All right, I have not put a cap on it, and the plea agreement doesn't put a cap on it. So whomever is out there who wishes to speak and address the court, face defendant, they're free to do that. Sentencing at this point is still projected, Friday about 1 o'clock, maybe a little bit later. If we need to, we'll go into Monday. So I don't care how many people get added on, but I do appreciate the update, and if there are written statements, please provide those. They don't have to do written statements, but it is helpful.
I had asked that, and I believe Ms. Jefferson and Jean Ann have additional statements, so we'll coordinate that as well.
Thank you.
If I may, our first survivor to speak today, Your Honor, is a former national team member, and I'm very happy that she's here. Her name is Jamie Dancher, and Ms. Dancher would like to have an opportunity to speak with you, and she will be accompanied by her support person, John Manley.
Thank you. Thank you for being here this morning. Could you please state and spell your name for the record?
My name is Jamie, Jamie, Dancher, Dantzscher.
Thank you. What would you like us to know?
Well, thank you, Your Honor, for giving me the opportunity to speak. I fell in love with gymnastics when I was just 3 years old. I started at 7 years old, and thanks to the sacrifices of my parents, siblings, God-given talent, and hard work, I progressed through the levels quickly. I made the USA national team when I was just 12, and continued to make the USA national team every year after that through the 2000 Olympic Games. I competed in Sydney, Australia in the 2000 Olympic Games, where I, along with my teammates, won a bronze medal for our country.
Congratulations.
Thank you. My career in elite gymnastics took an emotional, physical, and psychological toll on me during the period of my life after college. I spent years of soul-searching and years in therapy trying to heal from all the scars I was left with from elite gymnastics led by USA Gymnastics. I struggled with anorexia and bulimia. I struggled with family relationships, personal relationships, and depression so severe at one point that I was hospitalized for attempting suicide. I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. Why am I struggling so much? I couldn't even stand to watch gymnastics on TV, and I have never felt proud of any of my accomplishments in elite gymnastics. I was left with zero self-confidence and led down a path of self-destructive behaviors and a constant battle with myself to try to feel just okay. Well, a very good friend of mine, also a former elite gymnast, was sexually abused by her personal coach. As she opened up to me more and more about her awful experience, this is around July in 2016, I realized that many of the disgusting acts she endured by her coach were very similar to the medical procedures that Dr. Larry Nassar performed on me throughout my entire elite career. Dr. Nassar was a highly respected doctor from Michigan State University and the team physician for USA Gymnastics while I competed. He spent a considerable amount of time with us as child athletes, traveling with the team and treating us during national and international competitions and training camps. I was a young girl pursuing my dream to be an Olympian. I can't even count how many times Nassar treated me for my hips, my back, my hamstring, and even at times gave me routine physicals. His so-called treatments included, but were not limited to, breast exams, stretching me while he would lay on top of me with his penis on my crotch, massaging me in very intimate places, and even placing his ungloved hand into my anus and vagina in order to get my hips to pop back in place and relieve my back pain. It was painful at times, but Dr. Nassar was nice, sympathetic, and provided a sharp contrast to the overtly abusive environment overseen by USA Gymnastics and others. I trusted him. Dr. Nassar never used any type of glove in his treatment. There was never any lubricant, and there was almost never another adult present. Most of his treatments occurred in my personal hotel rooms at competitions or in my personal cabin at the Crowley Ranch in Texas, in my own bed. He never spoke to my parents about this procedure, and he never obtained written consent from anyone. Dr. Nassar is no doctor at all. I'll now refer to him as Larry. Late summer of 2016 was when I began to understand that Larry had sexually abused me all those years, and that his treatments were not legitimate medical procedures. I decided to speak up, even though at the time I had no idea there were other victims. When I came forward in August 2016, I was attacked on social media. People did not believe me. They believed him. People didn't believe me, even people I thought were my friends. They called me a liar, a whore, and even accused me of making all of this up just to get attention. Even USAG psychologist Dr. Allie Arnold was campaigning for positive Larry Nassar stories all over social media to try and discount my accusations. Instead of backing down, I continued to speak my truth because I couldn't stand the thought of this happening to one of my nieces, nephews, or any other child that may have crossed paths with Larry or anyone like him. Every day after that, more women and young girls were coming forward. I wasn't alone. I further came to learn that he had been doing this to so many girls over many years, despite several complaints to MSU and USAG. Their stories so shockingly similar to mine. Your Honor, I'd now like to address the defendant directly.
You may.
Well, who do they believe now, Larry? I remember your obnoxious laugh and how loud it was, and then you would slurp the drool off your lip. I don't see you laughing now. Larry, you saw all the physical, mental, and emotional abuse from our coaches and USAG national staff. You pretended to be on my side, calling all of them the monsters. I can't say I disagree with you there, but instead of protecting children and reporting the abuse you saw, you used your position of power to manipulate and abuse as well. You knew I was powerless. You pretended to be my friend. You snuck me food and candy when you knew food was being restricted. You manipulated me into thinking you were the good guy and helping me while sexually abusing me over and over and over for your own twisted sexual pleasure. You even had the audacity to abuse me in my room, in my own bed, at the Olympic Games in Sydney. I'm not going to say again everything you did to me, because I know a sick bastard like you will enjoy hearing it. And now over 140 women have bravely come forward, not only for ourselves, but to ensure that you can never hurt another child or destroy another family again. And how dare you ask any of us for forgiveness? And how dare you act like you care for a second about our healing? And how fucking dare you say sorry about everything you've done and all the lives you've destroyed? We all see right through your bullshit now. You're a pathetic monster that is only sorry you got caught. I'm here today with all these other women, not victims, but survivors, to tell you face to face that your days of manipulation are over. We have a voice now. We have the power now. There is no therapy, no cure, and no healing for monsters like you. You are pure evil. And I hope every other evil pervert listening to this is sitting there cowardly like you with their tail between their legs, because you are just one of so many that are going to get what they deserve. I will continue to heal, and I will continue to stay strong, knowing I have a bright future ahead of me. All your future holds, all you get to look forward to now is rotting in prison for the rest of your life. And all you will ever feel now, Larry, is forever powerless. And now I can finally say that I'm truly proud of myself for something I've done relating to my elite gymnastics career. Thank you, Ivana.
Ma'am, I'm proud of you too. And you should feel proud, not just for your words, but for your strong voice on behalf of your sister survivors and all other victims. Because, as you know, sadly, there are other pedophiles. And this is hopefully a start in eroding the silence, which we need to do. And you've started that ripple effect along with your fellow survivors. I'm really saddened each time I hear that people didn't believe you, whether you reported it to someone or whether it's your own friend or family member. People need to learn, and your message has been heard by me. I'm hoping that the public hears it, that children need to be believed and supported by everybody around them. And ma'am, you know that suicide lets him win. Don't let him win.
Never.
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 That's what I want to hear, and that's a great smile. I'm sure it took you a long time to be able to smile again, but I'm very happy to see that. I care about your healing. That's why I address each victim individually.
Thank you.
People like Defendants do this. There's a lot of mention that it's for their own sexual pleasure, and that is in part true, but it's also about their control over other human beings and feeling like God. they can do anything. Today, your words, your strong stance and voice, your absolute eye contact with your predator puts you in control. He is not in control anymore. I think you sent that message, and I applaud you being here. Continued happiness, man.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Next.
Judge, this next survivor could not be here today. I have the honor to speak on her behalf. And
You may proceed. Can you state and spell her name?
I can. I want the court to know that in December, I had the opportunity, I'm going to be speaking for Ms. Michaela Maroney. And in December, I had the opportunity to spend some time with her mom, Erin Maroney, and to meet Michaela. And I hope that they are watching somewhere. And again, I am so privileged to speak on their behalf, and I'm glad they've asked me to do this.
And Erin Maroney, is that E-R-I-N?
Yes.
All right. And as to Michaela?
Yes. Dear, spelling, I'm sorry. McKaylayMaroney.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Dear Judge Aquilina, for as long as I can remember, gymnastics was my life. As a child, my mom said, I need to put this child in gymnastics to tire her out. You could say I was in gymnastics since the age of 18 months. I've always felt comfortable in the gym, sort of my home away from home. I was 7 years old for my first competition. I remember getting ready for the meet. I got my hair braided with a cool bow and some sparkles. I got to wear this really awesome Leo and wore a matching warm-up. Life was good. I looked good. And I was pretty certain that one day I'd be heading off to the Olympics. The Olympics is something that brings people hope and joy. It inspires people to fight for their dreams because anything is possible with hard work and dedication. I remember watching the 2004 Olympics. I was 8 years old, and I told myself that one day I would wear that red, white, and blue leotard and compete for my country. Sure, from the outside looking in, it's a remarkable and amazing story. I did it. I got there, but not without a price. I made the United States national team at the age of 14 and began to compete throughout the world for my country. When I first met Larry Nassar, he was the doctor for our national team and our Olympic team. I was told to trust him, that he would treat my injuries and make it possible for me to achieve my Olympic dreams. Dr. Nassar told me that I was receiving, quote, medically necessary treatment that he had been performing on patients for over 30 years, end quote. As it turns out, much to my demise, Dr. Nassar was not a doctor. He, in fact, was and forever shall be a child molester, a monster of a human being, end of story. He abused my trust, he abused my body, and he left scars on my psyche that may never go away. It all started when I was 13 or 14 years old at one of my first national team training camps in Texas, and it didn't end until I left the sport. It seemed whenever and wherever this man could find the chance, I was, quote, treated, end quote. It happened in London before my team and I won the gold medal. And it happened before I won my silver medal. For me, the scariest night of my life happened when I was 15 years old. I had flown all day and night with the team to get to Tokyo. He'd given me a sleeping pill for the flight, and the next thing I know, I was all alone with him in his hotel room, getting a, quote, treatment. I thought I was going to die that night. Because the national team training camps did not allow parents to be present, my mom and dad were unable to observe what Nassar was doing, and this has imposed a terrible and undeserved burden of guilt on my loving family. Larry Nassar deserves to spend the rest of his life in prison, not only because of what he did to me, my teammates, and so many other little girls. He needs to be behind bars so he will never prey upon another child. I urge you to impose the maximum sentence upon him. Ever since I went public with my story, I have been inspired and uplifted by the love and support of my former teammates, fans, and many other good people. People should know that sexual abuse of children is not just happening in Hollywood, in the media, or in the halls of Congress. This is happening everywhere. Wherever there is a position of power, there seems to be potential for abuse. I had a dream to go to the Olympics, and the things I had to endure to get there were unnecessary and disgusting. I was deeply saddened by the stories of my fellow Olympic teammates that suffered, as I did, at the hands of Larry Nassar. More than 150 women and girls had to say #MeToo to Nassar's sexual assaults, and hundreds more were victimized to create the pornographic images that fueled his evil desires. A question that has been asked over and over: how could have Larry Nassar been allowed to assault so many women and girls for more than 2 decades? The answer to that question lies in the failure of not one, but 3 major institutions to stop him: Michigan State University, the United States Gymnastics Association, and the United States Olympic Committee. When my story became public, the U.S. Olympic Committee said, quote, "Each doctor working with our athletes undergoes background checks, including an evaluation of medical licensure actions." Unfortunately, this predator was not identified by any organization during the time in question, unquote. Reports to the nation's leading newspapers and media outlets document credible claims that Michigan State University trainers and coaches received complaints about Nassar going back to the late 1990s. These complaints were ignored. Nassar was not even licensed to practice medicine in Texas, yet he, quote, treated, unquote, and abused girls at the Caroli Ranch Olympic Training Center in Huntsville, Texas, for more than 15 years. In 2014, Nassar was the subject of a Michigan State University investigation based on additional complaints of sexual misconduct. This botched investigation concluded that Nassar's actions, which he has now admitted were sexual assaults, were legitimate medical treatments. He was allowed to go back to work at Michigan State University and continue molesting girls. USA Gymnastics and the U.S. Olympic Committee were never informed of this investigation. When other Olympic and national team athletes complained to USA Gymnastics about Larry Nassar in 2015, he was allowed to retire as the Olympic team doctor, and Michigan State was never informed of the complaints made against him. He returned to Michigan State University and allegedly continued to molest young girls until he was finally arrested nearly a year later. A simple fact is this: if Michigan State University, USA Gymnastics, and the U.S. Olympic Committee had paid attention to any of the red flags in Larry Nassar's behavior, I never would have met him. I never would have been treated by him. I never would have been abused by him. It is my hope that federal and state law enforcement agencies will not close the book on the Nassar scandal after he receives his just punishment. It is time to hold the leadership of Michigan State University, United States Gymnastics, and the United States Olympic Committee accountable for allowing and in some cases enabling his crimes. Our silence has given the wrong people power for too long, and it is time to take our power back. Thank you. Signed, Michaela Maroney.
Thank you, and thank you, Michaela. I think you've just taken your power back along with your sister survivors. Your voice for change and accountability is being heard. And also, I'm hopeful that her words have not fallen on deaf ears with the Olympic Committee. She brings home medals to the United States. They need to listen to her. She was abused. And I'm hoping that what they do, because their statement falls short, I think that's why she included it. She's not here, so I can't ask her, but her statement really says, to me anyway, that the Olympic Committee should have included that we will change our procedures, look deeper, and include allowing parents. I was not aware that parents were not allowed to be there. I'm not sure why that is. I don't know how that helps the Olympics, and clearly it has now hurt them. So her voice echoes loudly on behalf of all sports and the victims here. It resonates with this court. And yet I've heard another crime. Criminal sexual conduct against an incapacitated victim. Something else that could have been charged. I know it's a global settlement, global plea. There are so many more crimes here that were committed. More crimes doesn't help the victims. There's only one lifetime defendant has. I thank and applaud her mother and Michaela for her statement, a very brave public statement. Please let her know, and I hope she's watching.
Me too. I will. Thank you.
All right, if everybody could just come in, we have the necessary people that we need. We're back on the record. A couple of things. One, to the media. I know there have been requests for the statement or letter that defendant wrote. That will be addressed again at sentencing. I do not know if I will be releasing it to the public or not. That's something I need to discuss with counsel. Second, you were all here a few minutes ago when we had an individual get ill. I want to make sure that everything is sanitized, and I don't know what's going on with the individual, if she was upset or...
I am told she was just upset.
Yes.
Now, I don't want to, folks wouldn't report that because she's our press secretary, but I don't believe it's the flu.
Okay, could be the flu, could be she's upset, I have no idea, but I really want to sanitize the area. It doesn't really matter why. I think for the betterment of this very crowded courtroom, we need to do that. I also want to remind everybody that our court reporter is exceptional. I always say that at every hearing. And in order for her to be as exceptional, she needs to hear everything. And so I need you to avoid your natural desire to comment and speak. I do not have that good of hearing. You will see me from time to time tell her to turn things up. She has exceptional hearing. She can hear a dime drop on this carpet. So I need you all to be mindful of that and be quiet, speak on breaks, write notes to each other, but please, I need quiet. Because we have this need for a break, I think at this time, we'll break for lunch, and I'll also talk with counsel between now and sentencing and let media know if we can release that letter. I'm not sure at this point. I will address some other parts in it at sentencing. Beyond that, I don't know if it will be released in total. We will return from lunch. I'm going to pose 1:15. I'm not objecting to 1:30. Counsel, how much time do you need?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. When were we breaking?
1:15. We're breaking now. I don't think we need to go forward until we clean the area.
Your Honor, I would ask for
1:30, just because the restaurants are getting overwhelmed with all of us going, and the lines end up really long, so.
So a two-hour lunch? Well, what time, isn't it slightly less, it's 11:35. Right, 11:30.
And you wanted to talk to us for a few minutes?
So would you want to do 1 o'clock, 1:15?
One, please, yes, if that's possible.
1:15 or 1:30, we don't have enough time.
All right, let's do 1:15. Right now, the bathroom lines are long. People, before they get out and go to the restaurants, I think the other day, everyone shut down Jimmy John's. So maybe it speaks to the downtown, we need more restaurants. I really don't know, but we certainly need time to get in and out of the building with security with such a number of people. So let's make it 1:15, and I'll probably need to talk to council. So 1:15, we stand in recess until then. We'll get the court.
Judge, did you want to see council now or?
Certainly.